So if you followed the Iridium's black hole tutorial, you should be here by now at the end. And now if you want to spin this disk, the accretion disk, it's actually super easy. This is what the node setup looks like. You should have the exact same node setup. Just go to this first mapping node, grab the Z rotation, and if you move it, you can see that the emission disk spins. So all you have to do is keyframe that 0. Let me put in a number, say 720. Keyframe that, da 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 da. Boom. You have a spinning accretion disk. That's one. And because the cloud layer is different from the emission layer, you could spin that one at a different rate if you want, which would look super cool. So insert keyframes. That would hurt. And say I want this to spin faster. And 1080 and done. Here, now I have clouds that spin faster. And from a camera perspective, it should look pretty good. Yeah, easy as that. Render out your animation. I set mine to 10 samples, just so it doesn't take 300 years to render. So for step 2, we're going to try and make the accretion disk a bit thicker and be more volumetric, so it looks like actual dust particles. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this disk, Shift D, and then scale it on the Z axis, make it 3 times as big so we get a nice thick accretion disk. Right now we can see both, so I'm gonna hide the original one. And from here, since I want the smoke or like the dust particles to be like coming out of the accretion disk and like the glowing part of the disk to be the same size, I'm gonna go to the emission color bit, which is controlled by this spherical texture. I'm gonna make this 2. That way it becomes skinny again. But then I only want this to apply to the emission. So I'm gonna make a copy of this. And then connect the density layer to the top one, which I want to be thicker. So I'll bring that back up to 1. Okay, so now what we have is a thin emissions layer underneath with a thick uh, like dense layer above it. If you can see from the side, this. So this is the emissions layer, which is a bit thinner, and then the dense layer, it fills up almost a whole box. And from here, we can tweak these values to get a more like a clumpy kind of nature to these clouds. But right now, it should look a bit thicker than, yeah, it does. But like it looks too uniform to my liking at least. So I want to make this clumpy. So if you press Control Shift and then click on any of these textures, it'll show what it looks like. So this noise texture, you know what? I think it needs a color ramp because I want it to be more apparent. Not there. There we go. Yeah, I want it to be like that. I want it to be, more cloudy. All right, let's see what that looks like. So you can already see we've got like some like a cloudy accretion disk going. And then what you can do is just mix it in. This factor is interesting. Okay. And basically what I'm doing here is to get it to have that spinning effect. As there we go. Do I want this spinning effect? And basically we can pick what layer of like how we layer this noise texture. So these parts are basically going to be the dark, dusty clouds of the accretion disk. And there you go. You have a nice looking accretion disk. Obviously, you can go higher on the scale, and you'll get more detail on this. It's really up to personal preference. So you can just play with this set of nodes to get your dust to look like how you want it, and it'll stand out from the rest of the disk. To add the spinning star layer that he was talking about in the video, what you can do is create a circle and make sure when you add the circle, where's the circle? Circle, you go here and make sure the fill type is either n-gon or triangle fan. Doesn't really matter. So it has an actual plane. Alright, delete that circle. And then in that circle itself, what you're going to want to do is grab a mix shader, put in a transparent BSDF and an emission shader, and then into the factor you're going to throw in a noise texture through a color ramp. And on the noise texture, you're going to set the scale up to however you want, however small you want the stars to be. And then the color ramp is going to dictate how many stars there's going to be in your circle. And then all you have to do is keyframe the rotation of it, and you're done. Oh, and don't forget to turn motion blur on.